Nine Puzzles is a mystery crime thriller that weaves together a decade-old cold case with a new string of baffling murders, all linked by enigmatic puzzle pieces. Talking about its plot, there's little that feels new. It follows a familiar formula often seen in other K-dramas without bringing a fresh take. A female detective haunted by a traumatic past and corrupt higher-ups sabotaging the investigation, leaving her unsure of who to trust. In this review, I'll share my personal thoughts on why the series ultimately left me disappointed as a viewer. So without further delay, let's dive into today's episode. The story starts 10 years ago, when Yoon Yi-na, a high school student at the time, finds her uncle, who used to be a high-ranking police officer, murdered in his home. At the crime scene, a strange puzzle piece is discovered. Yi-na is the only witness, but she can't remember how she got there or what happened before the murder. Because of this memory gap, rookie detective Kim Han-sam, who was just starting out back then, sees her as the main suspect. However, there isn't enough proof to arrest her, so the case goes cold. Still, Yi-na is quietly treated with suspicion. A decade later, Yi-na has become an exceptionally skilled criminal profiler, working for the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency. She's brilliant at dissecting crime scenes and understanding motives, yet she remains haunted by her uncle's unresolved murder and her own fragmented memories. The plot kicks into high gear when a new wave of serial killings surfaces. Each victim is found with a puzzle piece identical to the one discovered at Yi-na's uncle's murder scene. This eerie pattern forces Yi-na back into the very mystery that defined her life. Fate, or perhaps a more sinister force, brings her back into contact with Detective Han-sam, who is still with the police and continues to harbor lingering doubts about her innocence in her uncle's death. From my point of view, Nine Puzzles starts with a bang and ends with a thrilling crescendo. But it could have been much better if this series could have been one episode shorter, by removing unnecessary scenes which doesn't contribute to progress of series and are added to increase episodes. For example, there is a scene of birthday celebration of Yi-na, also few seen through the series, where she grabs coffee and chit-chats with her team members. I found myself occasionally checking my watch during the mid-season. The pacing can feel a bit slow. This might test the patience of viewers who prefer a consistently fast-paced thriller. The strength of Nine Puzzles lies in its intricate mystery, but this can also be its downfall. With multiple layers of past events, new murders, symbolic puzzle pieces, and a web of interconnected characters, the plot can become overly complicated and difficult to follow at times. It might require intense focus to keep track of all the details, and some viewers might feel lost. There were moments where I had to pause and go back and watch over again to understand how everything fit together, which can detract from the immersive viewing experience. While the core premise is unique, some of the characters lean on common K-drama thriller tropes. This could include the traumatized female lead with a mysterious past, the skeptical detective who eventually trusts her, or certain red herring tactics that become predictable over time for viewers who are familiar with K-thrillers. Spoiler alert, in case you haven't watched this K-drama, then I suggest you to skip watching from here to avoid knowing about the killer. While the main puzzle is eventually solved, I felt that some of the subplots in Nine Puzzles didn't receive the same level of satisfying closure. A few minor mysteries felt either rushed in their resolution or left somewhat ambiguous, which can be a little frustrating for viewers who prefer a tidier ending for all elements of the story. For example, for most of the murders committed, we don't see how they were executed in detail. We just hear the narrative and how it's done. I strongly believe that if each murder were shown on how exactly it was executed, it would have been a plus point and was going to hook the viewers. Also, single-handed lady killing each of them is not easy to digest. How can a lady in her mid-30s able to kill a high-ranking police officer and other characters Even though the actors were talented, many of the characters didn't feel fully developed. The main characters had interesting backstories, but they often acted in strange or unrealistic ways. All the characters were making serious face, without any feeling and emotion in every situation, which was giving feeling of weak acting. Especially Yi Na, Kim Han Sam, and the psychiatrist. The villains were well-known actors, and yet their roles were flat and only seemed to be there to help the plot, not to add real meaning or emotion. It was hard to see their acing talent went wasted, which made it difficult for viewers to care about them. The climax of 9 puzzles fell flat, predictable for some and disappointing for many. The reveal of the mastermind, their motives, and the final twist lacked the sharp impact and clever payoff that the complex plot seemed to promise. Instead of a brilliant, jaw-dropping ending, we got a rushed wrap-up that left key questions hanging and the build-up feeling wasted. In the end, 9 puzzles shot for brilliance but landed in mediocrity. What could have been a smart, gripping thriller unraveled into a confusing and forgettable experience. It promised a masterpiece, but delivered just another ordinary suspense drama. Honestly, I'd rate this series a 6 out of 10. While it had some interesting moments, I personally felt it was lacking in thrills. There just wasn't enough suspense to really hook my attention throughout. Also, with such a strong star cast, I had higher expectations. That said, if you enjoyed this review, please consider liking and sharing the video. Your support really helps motivate us to keep creating more content. Thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts on 9 puzzles in the comments below.